All right, well, I'm Brian Hamlett. I'm the head track and field coach, boys track and field coach at Carmel High School. This is my first year. Came over from Brebeuf Jesuit, where I was coach for 10 years. I was the head coach for five. Four of those I coached the girls. And then the last year I coached both boys and girls when our head coach adopted a child and had to step back and take over. Just kind of the first day of practice is when it happened. He just came, he's like, "You're gonna kill me." We I have to leave. We just got a call. We're getting a child. I'm like, you have to go. It's fine. I, I'm not upset at all. I'm super happy for you. So I got the feeling of coaching a large program by coaching both boys and girls. In 2018, we were as an assistant, as a sprint assistant, we were the runner-up at state to Hamilton Southeastern. And then we had the state champion 4x1 team with four Division One girls on it. It was a pretty solid team. And then last year for the boys, they finished their highest ever at sixth in state, and in those top 10, I think we're the smallest school by 800 students. So it was a pretty big accomplishment to be able to kind of move up. We were, I think, seeded to be 12th or something like that, and ended up finishing in the top eight. So that was pretty cool.
So how did you get into coaching track and field?
It's actually kind of weird. I went to college and played football. I played at Southern Illinois University and I played wide receiver there. But in high school, I ran track and started off was a distance runner when I was like 5'10", 135 pounds, and going around the track multiple times. Like I was in eighth grade, I was a sub 5 miler. By freshman year, I was a sub 2 800 runner. And then I went from 5'10", 135 to 6'2", 170, 180 pounds. It was a lot less fun going around the track. So I moved down to the four and the two, did a little high jump. So I had some background in track in high school, but then in college, played football. And then when I got out of college, I was a football coach, I was a basketball coach, and then the track coach was like, "Why don't you come out and do this?" And 22-year-old kid looking for more money. It's like, yeah, for sure. And I fell in love with the sport and coaching it. And the aspect of it that I loved so much was it's objective. There's no
Mhm.
subjectivity to it, right? In basketball and football, baseball, where I think I'm better than that kid. And it's like, oh, okay, well, based on what I've seen at practice, no.
Right.
But in track, where it's like, I think I'm faster than him. It's like, well, let's go down through your times of what you've run this year. Let's look at what what the person you think you're faster than ran, and we'll find out you're not. And so the objectivity of it, I fell in love with, and then just watching kids, the excitement of getting better, just 1% better was one of the things I fell in love with. So I always thought I was going to be like a head football coach at some point by this time, and I pushed basketball to the side once we had our second child. And then when I got here, I coached football for a few years and then just took up too much time and I only did track. And I tell people I wouldn't leave it. I love it too much. It's too much fun.
Yeah, that's an interesting way into it.
Yeah, it's a roundabout way for sure. But yeah, it was I've never regretted it looking back for sure.
Yeah, yeah, so especially coming from football to track.
Yeah.
That's a unique blend. I mean, I did the same thing, so I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Now, when
It
you're
was
growing up,
it was one of those things just kind of it made a lot of sense. I think the one of the football coaches was a track coach, and they're just like, let's get another football coach out so we can try to get so he can talk to more football kids to come run.
Right. Well, at least you two understood the value of it, right? You have an
Absolutely.
outside where football coaches are like, no, don't.
Yeah, it's I never get the idea of trying to hoard your athletes or not trying to ask them or expect them to do other things. I grew up by the time I was in four sports in
Hmm.
my freshman year of high school. I did football, I did basketball, I did track, and then in the summer I did baseball.
Hmm.
And that was one of the things my parents said that you either play a sport or get a job. I was
Yeah.
like, I'll play a sport. And
Sports it
but
is.
I never get the idea of people not wanting their kids to compete. It's a like you can't hide we say it all the time. You can't hide on the track. And I
Hmm.
think that's sometimes what shies away for some of these guys that they're afraid that they'll get exposed. But you can find out here's where I'm weak. Here's where I can now hopefully improve. And that's what we're trying to, that's what we do when trying to bring these football guys in when we do. Just make them better.
right? Right. Now, where'd you grow up?
So I grew up so I was in Waukegan in like the northern suburbs
Of
of
Illinois?
Chicago, and then my parents didn't want me going to Waukegan High School, so they moved me out to a much a very different place, Libertyville, and sounds about as white as it could possibly sound. And so I went. That's where I went and played football and basketball and ran track there. So
Yeah, well, because and the only reason I asked is because I grew up
right,
in Illinois, and that was the same
right,
cycle for us.
right,
Like you go from football, then you go to
mhm,
basketball, then you go to
right,
track, then in the summer you can do baseball, and then you
yeah,
Mhm.
just roll through it. And
right,
it wasn't and I haven't heard anybody else anywhere else say they did four sports,
yeah.
unless you came out of Illinois somewhere. So
Yeah,
that's
well, I think part of it too is my parents knew I had a lot of energy. I was an only child. Well, I grew up an only child, so like I think they're just like get this kid out of the house and get him doing stuff because he's crazy.
yeah. Well, you have a formula,
Yeah,
coach.
that's for
Right.
sure. Absolutely, I do have one.
Yeah.
What would you say is your core philosophy in how you train your athletes?
I'm kind of one of those things that's all about like, especially as a sprint coach, that speed is the tide that rises all boats, right? No matter what event you're doing, right? If you look at these guys running the 800 now, it's now turning into a sprint. You better be able to finish. You better be able to kick in the 16 and the 32, and then not to mention just the sprints, the jumps, and being an explosive, fast athlete as a thrower, right? You need to be so we prioritize speed and we want to make sure that our guys are training that, especially early in the season. We're trying to go after max velocity. We're trying to go after acceleration early, right? Because you're not putting on more speed late in the season,
Mhm.
right? That's something you got to do early, right? If you want to try and make you like, you know what, now it's time to put on speed in May. It's like that's not how this works. That's not how your body develops. That's not how speed develops. So, we really want to make sure that we're working on proper acceleration mechanics and proper max velocity mechanics early and often.
Mhm.
You took over a whole new program. So
Yeah.
they you and you're following up a Hall of Fame coach.
Yes.
So what type of how are you reshaping or continuing the culture out there?
Well, yeah, there's not much I really have to change when it comes to that. The kids here work hard, and that's a testament to Ken. Ken is a phenomenal coach. You don't win three state championships in a row by accident, right? That's Carmel's a large school, and they have a lot of kids, but you still got to train these kids up. And there's a lot of like when you win one, you win two, you got the rest of the state gunning for you. So he did a phenomenal job of creating a culture there that I just have to not ruin. Right.
Mhm.
It's just making sure that kids know that there's the expectation. The standard is the standard. When you run at Carmel, you're always going to have a target on your back, but you also there's some work that goes into it. If you want to, we have 5,500 kids. That means we have 2,500, 2,700 boys to choose from, and
Mhm.
we start putting 150, 175 boys on that track team. There's only four spots for the 4x1. There's only two spots for the 100 unless you hit the state standard. So three at the most. So you're going to have to compete every day. So it's not just about competing on the dual or tri meets or quads. It's not about the competing just at the invites. You have to compete Monday through Saturday at practice if you want to be able to make that squad and be there. So that's been the standard there, or been the standard here. And I'm just making sure, like I said, I'm not messing it up because did a phenomenal job of building this program, and I feel blessed and lucky to be able to take it over. It wasn't something I was looking for. We had almost everybody coming back at Brebeuf and was like, and then when it opened up, someone reached out to me and said, you should just at least apply. I'm like, well, there's got to be 100 people applying for this job.
Mhm.
And to be the person that's the last person standing, I'm blessed to be able to say I'm the head coach of Carmel Track and Field.
How would you say in your coaching experience you balance the technical aspects with the physical conditioning?
Yeah, you got to be able to blend them both. And you got to really be looking for those technical aspects in all aspects of it, right? So we're doing the conditioning, I guess, that we kind of go into it. If we're doing some speed endurance or a little bit longer type of run, we got to make sure we're still using those proper mechanics that we're running efficiently. So we're always doing our best to keep an eye on those things, filming as much as possible, right? Because the film's never going to lie about some of those things that you can tell the kid, here's what you're doing, and they don't understand what you're talking about. But as soon as you can pull up the iPad and show it to them, it becomes a big part of that. So, early on, we're not so much go out there and run slow. Like we're not doing not a lot of jogging or slow running. Everything that we do comes from at a distance. When we're going long distance or I guess endurance or conditioning is going to have some sort of reason behind it. I think a lot of people talk about the 23-second drill of getting out there and having kids run as far as they can in 23 seconds, right? And then giving them an 8-minute break, coming back and doing it again, and seeing if you can get within that 5 meters of that. And that's enough. After those 2 sprints, we have kids falling out like lactate war zone, right? Where guys are we had guys they're like, Coach, it's like blurry on this part of my vision. I go, mm-hmm. That's part of it. That like this is what we have to train. We've got to get your body ready for this, right? Because that's what's going to happen. That we have to recondition your physical being, right? We got to reshape your central nervous system that it knows I've got to be ready for this, right? And it's like this is what track's about. So it's time to rearrange the body a little bit to figure out how we can make sure we can survive this the next time.
Mm-hmm.
Now with a team that big, you have I used to be a Carmel. I know
yes,
they would come out there and it was like a swarm of ants. I was like, where did they get them from?
Yes.
So how are you catering to how are you dealing with newcomers versus the seasoned guys that you have there? How do you make that work?
Well, I had my first taste of it last Monday when we had it was like 60 degrees outside. And so we're outside with the sprinters. The distance boys come out, the distance girls are out, the sprint girls are out. So that was an eye-opening experience of like, okay, got to figure out who's getting control of what lanes, working with those other coaches to figure out what are you doing as opposed to what I'm doing, so we have enough. And for the most part, it's going to be utilizing the inside of the track, using the turf and those different types of things, especially when it's just kind of straight if we're not doing anything long. So getting to know some of the with like the newcomers and the vets, it's been going through like these workouts leading up to the season has been trying to get to know these guys, and because there's a lot of them. At least right now I've got 30 to 40 kids that I have consistently, and that's and I think if I opened up my team snap right now, there's about 200 kids in there from distance throws and sprints. So I've always been a person, I want to know the kids that I'm coaching. I want to be able to create, at least form a personal relationship. I want them to know that I know their name, right? Those different types of things. And so I'm trying to get create and form those personal connections with the new kids. Especially, it's probably easier with the freshmen because my daughter's a freshman there right now. So I know a lot of the freshman boys coming in and have seen them run in the middle school when I'm at that. So it's probably harder for me to for the vets to kind of get to know all of those guys. So that's been it's been fun though. They're a great group of kids. There's always like the stigma that comes with Carmel, but these kids they want to be good. They want to do their best, and they don't complain. They work. They work their butts off for me.
Mm-hmm. We've had some on the podcast, and I'm just like, already was a fan, but now more than ever. So it's really dope to break that stigma tied to it. So track season it goes by super quick. You train, condition, and before you know it, it'll be June. So how do you work to help your athletes stay healthy throughout the course of the season?
Well, I am very much in on rest, right? They need to have rest. I'm not here to like break them down to where, they're they can't run. If they're not healthy, if they can't run in May and June, it doesn't help us out if I'm trying to kill them in March and February. So we do a lot of recovery work. We talk about we don't do a warm up. Warm ups are training, right? So from the beginning, when we step out there, the training has begun. We don't want to refer to it as a warm up. And so part of that, one of the things, we get up there on our toes and work on being able to have those strong ankles, stiff ankles that can hopefully work out some of those, those shin issues. we after practice we do a lot of ankle rollouts and those different types of things to kind of get ahead of any type of shin issues because that's one of those big ones. We do a lot of hip work. I try to keep the hips loose and open because again you can't be fast with tight hips. So we're working on those, and then we'll have those recovery days, especially after meets, to try and get out, flush some of that lactate out of there. And so we do as much as we can to give those kids rest. I'm especially when we have a lot of kids that are multi-sport athletes. If I have a football player, if I have soccer players that have tournaments and they're doing stuff on the weekend, right, where I'm trying to work with them, it's kind of one of those things like, okay, well, I don't need to be breaking you down on the weekends or going after you hard throughout the week. We got to make sure we find that balance and give them the opportunity to super compensate, right? We got to give them the chance to actually get better, right? If I'm continuing to break them down and they continue to go and they're not recovering fully, right? There's no way they can improve. So we want to make sure like we look at our training blocks and look at the meterage that they have that week and make sure, okay, we're building up now. This is a week we need to pull back, right? Before we start going back and start building again. So we try to build that out for those 16 weeks and make sure we add in a lot of recovery and make sure we know how much mileage they're putting on or how much meterage they're putting on over the course of the season.
Whew. So what do you do with, I mean, you got a lot going. So, I mean, with what you just talked about, how do you like involve the parents with this process? Like, what do you do with them? What role do they play? I mean, outside of bringing the kids to practice,
Well, yeah, we have a parents organization, a moms group that kind of I've worked with to kind of help out with a lot of the stuff that becomes a little bit much, like trying to identify like how do I get the snacks to these kids? How do we, set up the senior day or and the end of year banquet, right? A lot of things that will go like that I'm not thinking about when I'm trying to think about this practice or this meet or how we're going to set up our lineup going into the state tournament, those things. So it's nice to have a set of moms that and set of parents that are willing to help and these parents want to help. They want to be a part of the program. They want to find a way to be able to connect not only with the program but with their kid, right? Be able to get an excuse to see them and talk to them when sometimes you get froze out by your teenager. And so it's been great so far working with our parents. I look forward to working with them more and being able to give them some things off my plate that tend to usually pile up and get in the way is not the right word, but just kind of take the focus away from the track sometimes.
Distracting. They're distracting.
Yeah, they're distractions. Exactly.
And you look to the future for your program, right? Even though this is year one, I mean, you've been in the track world for a very long time. What's your hope for your team this year?
I mean, it's Carmel. The goal is state. It's a state championship, right? There's you go through and I walk by it every day. So I'm blessed also to live a 5-minute walk from the high school. So I walk to school every day. I walk home at lunch and because I've got the 2-hour lunch block, so I'll go home and get my lunch and then head back. And I walk through that gym and you see every single state championship picture of every single team. So it's not lost to me. I see it every single time. And then they have their hallway of like they kind of shove off here. That's like the runners up. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's like that's the hallway for the runners up trophy or the runners up picture. But in the main gym, I walk by it every single day, so it's not lost on me. And so we talk about it. The goal is to be state champions, right? And so what's that take? That's like what are we doing each day? That's what am I doing in practice that's getting me towards that goal as a team, right? And we talk about that, and we're open about it, right? It shouldn't be something that we shy away from, and I think the kids embrace it. And so when you have somebody like Scott Williams, who was the first year cross country coach for Carmel, ended up being the cross country coach of the year. This voted this past weekend, and he comes in his first year and wins a state championship. It sets the bar pretty high for a first year coach. And so that next day when I saw him that Monday, I'm like, "Come on, Scotty, like, really? This is what we're doing with first year coaches? You're going to put this on me? And I'm sure like Aaron McCrill kind of jokes about it too. He's like, I'm still trying to get number one. And
Yeah.
it blew my mind that he hasn't had one yet. That I was like, I didn't know that was, but I feel like that's going to happen here pretty soon for him.
Well,
I know you guys want to have a say in it.
Look,
You guys want to have a
like,
say.
yeah, we wish them nothing but the best, genuinely.
Exactly.
It's friendly competition.
Right.
It is. It
Exactly.
is.
Well,
It's all friendly.
it's
It's
all
all
about
love.
it's all
It's
about
all
elevating
love.
both. You
Yes.
challenge each other, right?
right,
Yes.
right,
Yes.
right, right. uh,
If we were college coaches, and
Mm-hmm.
I know this again, even being in the track world, you follow like the athletes that are
Yeah.
even at Carmel. Who would you say we should be on the lookout for this track season?
Well, this we just had Theo Thurman who finished, I believe he was top six in the discus last year. He's a senior this year. He just committed to Indiana State.
Nice.
So that was pretty awesome. He was super excited. I think it was like that's where he was really looking at. Now
Mm-hmm.
you might know like the name. His mom's Althea Thurman, who threw in the for USA Track and Field, and he's phenomenal. I think he threw 53 this past weekend in the shot, so he's in a good spot right now from where he started at the beginning of this year. So we're excited about him. We've got another thrower, Ozzie Pollard, who actually tore his ACL during football season
Oh wow.
and was actually, I think, is getting cleared here soon. So I think somebody said they saw him squatting like 225 pounds already in the weight room. I mean, he's just a massive kid. But he's got, he's been a 50-foot thrower, 160-foot disc guy. So to have those two big earners, those are guys that, we hopefully if Ozzie's healthy, to have two guys going into the throws that could possibly score some points for us becomes a big part. It's Carmel. We're always going to have guys on the track or especially in the distance program from Declan Bowser's one of them. We have Kiefer J. We've got guys that are that we're looking forward to some big contributions that I think will do well. And then we have a sprinter who transferred in this year, who was he won the Charlie Riley last year, ran a 1084. And he's Isaac Nelson, so he's a football kid, but he's a kid that we're looking that if you're running sub 10.9, you should be somewhere near the podium. So that's another kid that we're excited for, and to be at state or for somebody that's a possibility of maybe running at the next level.
Now, are you involved at all with the recruiting process? I know it's kind of early since it's
At this point, it's so far at Carmel, no, not yet, right? Other than, kind of talking with the kids, like, what is it that you want to do? What's your end goal? What's that dream school? Where, like, do you want to run, right? Because a lot of things I would find at Brebeuf when I would talk to these kids, like, hey, do you want to run at the next level? And a lot of them are like, all they're thinking about is like Division I, right? And I remember
Yeah.
I have a girl that's at Butler right now, Natalie Anderson. She was a long jumper for us last year. And I remember her freshman year talking to her, and she's like talking like Division I. I'm like, you understand that like Division III, Division II, like these kids are running same times and can compete. They're
Exactly.
running at the same meets, right? And doing just as well, right? So it's not like that's not the way you have to think about it. But so we would have a lot of kids that if it wasn't Division I, they weren't interested. It's like, I'll just go to IU. Okay, I'm like, we can find money. There's an opportunity to go run and continue this. But I do think at Carmel, I'm starting to see a little bit of a difference that kids want to compete, and if they're not competing I don't think they want to be done competing or at least give it a try at the next level. So I'm excited to start working with kids and be able to do that and get them placed in good programs that they can help out.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you joining us,
Yeah.
taking your
Yes.
time out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing some great things this season. I mean, you did great things at Brebeuf, so we know that will continue here at Carmel again with
Yeah,
our
for sure.
friendly competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me on. You guys, this has been awesome. Like I said, I've listened to almost every single one. I enjoyed. I learned something from the people that are on, and learning something from a lot of the coaches that you've had on. It's become it was pretty cool. what you guys are doing. So I really appreciate you guys bringing this podcast on and bringing the light to track and field a little bit here in Indiana.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming on the show for sure.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
So I'm so honored. I feel like I made it.
All right.